I'm Corey Proffitt-Boyd, and this is Say It Anyway.
Say it anyway with Corey Proffitt-Boyd. Say it anyway. Say it anyway with Corey Proffitt-Boyd. Say it anyway.
Welcome back to Say It Anyway. I'm Corey Proffitt-Boyd, and to start today's episode, I have a question for you. Have you ever stopped to think about how many people have changed your life without ever knowing they did? I don't mean your parents or spouse or your best friend. I mean the people who drifted into your story for 5 minutes, said or did something, and then disappeared. Yet somehow, years later, you still remember them. I think most of us can name the people who hurt us. It's the bully, the ex, the boss who made our lives miserable. Those people tend to stick in our memories. But what about the people who quietly made things better? The people who handed us a flashlight when everything felt dark? The people who showed up for one chapter and unknowingly changed the entire book? That's what I want to talk about today. Because I think there are people walking around right now who have no idea how important they were to somebody. And maybe you're one of them. Let's talk about it right after this commercial break for our sponsors. Welcome back to Say It Anyway with Corey Proffitt-Boyd. Thanks for joining us. Today we're talking about the people who have changed our lives and don't know it. One of the most powerful memories I have of someone who changed my life and didn't know it is my third grade teacher. I think most of us had at least one teacher who saw something in us before we saw it in ourselves. Maybe they encouraged you. Maybe they told you you were smart. Maybe they told you that you could write, or sing, or create, or lead. Maybe nobody had ever said anything like that to you before. It's funny how one sentence can become part of somebody's identity. A teacher may not even remember saying it, but 20 years later, the student still remembers exactly where they were standing when they heard it. One sentence, one moment, and a completely different future. Another experience that comes to mind is having a stranger show up exactly when you need them. I think about this all the time, not because they solved some huge problem, but because they reminded me that people can still be good. Because sometimes you're carrying something heavy and nobody knows. You're smiling and functioning. You're doing what needs to be done. But internally, you're hanging on by a thread. Then a stranger smiles, or compliments you, or holds a door, or just says something kind. And somehow, that's the thing that breaks the emotional dam. Not because it's huge, but because it's human. We underestimate kindness because it feels small, but small things can arrive exactly at the right moment and change your entire day. Just ordinary moments that really matter. You know, one thing my mom taught me, without ever sitting me down and teaching it, is how much ordinary moments really matter. We didn't spend every day having profound conversations. Most days were just life. Meals, television, errands, laughing about something ridiculous. The older I get, the more I realize that's where life actually happens. Not in the big moments, but in the ordinary ones. And I wonder how many things she said that seemed insignificant to her, but became part of who I am. I bet all of us carry pieces of people who never realized they were leaving fingerprints behind. But let's be honest, not all life-changing moments are serious. Some are completely ridiculous. Maybe somebody accidentally gave you terrible advice that somehow worked. Maybe somebody introduced you to your favorite food, or your favorite song or TV show. Maybe somebody told a joke that was so funny to you, it became part of your personality. There are literally entire sections of my life that probably exist because one random person said something funny 20 years ago. And here I am, still repeating it. When it's that funny, it's just contagious. And then there's the person who believed in you. This one hits differently. Have you ever had somebody believe in you before you believed in yourself? Maybe they saw potential you couldn't see. Maybe they encouraged you when you were ready to quit. Or maybe they treated your dream like it was possible. And that's a gift, especially when you're scared and feeling uncertain. Or you may have already convinced yourself that you're going to fail. Sometimes all it takes is one person saying, "I think you can do this." And suddenly, you start wondering if maybe you can. Not because they gave you confidence, because they loaned you some until you could find your own. Sometimes we just need to feel seen, although sometimes we feel like we need to be heard. There are probably listeners hearing this right now who have changed somebody's life and don't know it. Maybe they left a comment on something or answered a text. Maybe they checked on somebody. Maybe they sat with somebody in silence. Maybe they listened when nobody else would. They may never know what that meant to the person, and they may never get credit for it. But that doesn't mean it didn't matter. Some of the most important things we ever do don't come with applause. And sometimes, not even with a thank you. I think one of the saddest things in life is that some thank yous never get delivered. People move away or lose touch, or people may pass away, and we never get the chance. That's why if somebody comes to mind while you're listening to this, maybe reach out to them. Send the message. Make the phone call. Write the email. Just tell them. You don't have to write a novel. Just tell them and thank them. Just say, "Hey, I don't know if I've ever said this, but you made a difference in my life." Because you never know. That message may arrive on the exact day they need to hear it. Because life truly is built in tiny moments, by acts of kindness, moments of encouragement, and reminders that we're not alone. And somewhere out there, there's probably somebody who feels this way about each of you because of a lesson you taught or kindness you showed, maybe a laugh you shared with them, a moment you barely remember and they think about almost every day. You may never know whose life you've changed, but I think it's safe to assume you've changed more lives than you realize. And if somebody comes to mind while you're listening to this, maybe don't overthink it. Maybe don't wait. Maybe just tell them. Thanks so much for joining me again for this episode of Say It Anyway. I'm Corey Proffitt-Boyd, and until next time, say it anyway.
Say it anyway with Corey Proffitt-Boyd. Say it anyway. Say it anyway with Corey Proffitt-Boyd.